Okay, for this, I'm going to show you how to do Lab three's Visio portion. I had to cave and use Citrix for this, so there might be some slow spots. I start by opening up a crow's foot database notation, and here it is, right here. Now, in this problem, you have to put together a number of tables. There's a books table, an authors table, a publishers table, and a number of tables. So the instructions are right here, and it tells you. I can get into it real quick. Okay, it won't open, it won't change for me. Okay, I'm going to have to just go back. But you have a books table, an authors table, a publishers table, and an orders table, and a customers table. And you have to put them together um, in their right configuration. So I'm going to put these a few entities on here. And if you look at the instructions, they give you the business rules. That's the core of the whole thing. Those business rules tell you how these tables relate to each other, and they're in the instructions. You'll notice that of the tables that you have, they tend to relate to the books table. So the books table is kind of the center of the action in this particular entity relationship diagram. So there's one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the orientation to landscape here by going design landscape so that I can maybe spread these out a little more. Oops. Actually, it's doing some odd things here that I don't see when I have it on my own machine. So let's just get rid of these entities real quick. Okay, I'm going to this up a little more. Get rid of these things. Okay, so the books table is the one that where the action is. So I'm going to go books right here. And every table needs a primary key, particularly if it's a strong entity, meaning it's not a junction table. It's in this so far in this course. Book ID. Make sure you don't put spaces between book and ID. When you translate this into Access, that would be a problem. It doesn't cause any issues in Visio, but in Access, eventually it will. So there should be no spaces in any of your attribute names. And so book ID, no space. It's automatically made it a primary key. And okay, so that I'm going to put that there. We also going to have to use a customer table. So I'm going to go customer right here. And then I'm going to go customer ID. Whoops. Customer ID. And it will be a PK. And then we also need, I have to wait for this to move because we're on Citrix and it's a bit slow. We are going to, after creating this customer table, we're going to create a publisher table. And then after that, what was the other one? Book, publisher, customer. There's an author table in it as well, and it needs an author ID. Okay, now customer, publisher, books, author. I believe there was also an order table if I remember correctly. I wish this would open up for me, but it's not. Okay, I can't see that. Let's get rid of that. We can get started with some of this while it does its thing. Okay, some of these are in a many-to-many relationship. There was an order table correctly. So I'm going to put order here, and I'm going to put order ID. Okay, there's one statement that says each book can appear on many orders, and an order can have many books. As soon as you see many-to-many relationship, you've got to think junction table or associative entity. So these two tables need to be joined in that format. And in our lab 2, it was called order details, but the convention is to call the junction table by the name of the um, two tables you're trying to join, in this case order and book. And then what you need to do is you need to uh, put in here the columns for order ID and book ID so that you can join this in a many-to-many relationship. So I'm going to type order ID right here, and I'm going to type book ID. That book ID needs to be set as a primary key. Each of these, both of these also need to be set as a foreign key as well individually. So I'm going to click on that, right click, go set foreign key. I'm going to click on this, right click, set foreign key. Then I have to get the relationship in here. And the phrase that I've been having you memorize is the foreign key goes on the many side of the relationship. So I'm going to grab a relationship, set it down, and the many side is right here. That should go on to this table. You want it so that the table lines up like that. And then I want that to point to the order ID over here. It doesn't look very pretty. It's one thing I don't like about 2013 is 2010 did that a lot better. Take this again. Okay, many. Take the one and put it here so that this table lights up. And then take the many so that this table lights up. There we go. And then move it. That's a common mistake I've noticed is people get their many side over here. Remember, the foreign key goes on the many side of the relationship, or in other words, the many side of the relationship is where the foreign key is. It's always that way. Okay, and now we're going to do another one of these. Drop it down. And the one side goes over here. And the many side goes here. And I'm going to go straight connector. Okay. Oops, see, now I did it too. Just see how I've got the one side here and the many side here? That's backwards. It's easy to do. So we need to delete that and start over again. We need to take this. It's partly because it's so small by default. Okay, there's the one side, there's the many side. Okay. This might be easier if I make this a straight connector. Okay, the many side goes on. It's going to be easier, I think, for me to just right click and change that to set and symbol is going to be one and no, 0 or more. Okay, and then okay, and this would be the beginning symbol. One and only one. There. No, not quite. I'm going to reverse that. There we go. That's a many sign, and it will attach. to this table. And this, I'm going to turn it into a 1 in a minute. Okay, great. They travel together. The only thing I got to do is I got to make sure that this is a 1. So I'm going to go to set, I think it's the end single, 1 and only 1. There we go. Many's here, 1's there. Took an act of Congress to make it happen, but okay, so that's one relationship. Now another relationship that was described was customer order, and that each customer can place many orders, but each order has only one customer. So what I do there is I grab the relationship again, and I'm going to make it a straight connector. And in this case, each customer can place many orders. But an order is associated with only one customer. So that is now linked up. The test of whether you did it right is whether you can move it around and have the relationship keep sticking. Okay. Now there's no relationship between publisher and, customer, for example. We only focus on direct relationships. And if you check the business rules in the instructions, it tells you which tables are related to which. So the next thing we have to do is we have to associate author with book. So I'm going to move book down here, and I'm going to put another entity right there. And it said that each author can author many books, and each book can have many authors on it. So because that's a many-to-many relationship, you need a book author table. And we need a bit of space in order to put our relationships in here. So I'm going to move this down a little more. Okay, and then we're going to grab the relationship again and drag it here. Again, it's always the same. In the middle of this book author table, you've got to have a author ID, and you've got to have a book ID. Individually, these are primary keys, so I need to set that as a primary key. Together they're primary keys, meaning that, as I explained in my week 2 video, you join there if this is a, book 1, book 2, and author 25, then the primary key is 225 for this to uniquely identify each book that each author is on. And individually, they're foreign keys. And so now we have this constructed properly. We can join it up in a relationship. And it's always true that the foreign key goes on the many side of the relationship. So we want the many to be touching the edges of this table, not the one side. Now, this can be a little challenging with the way they've done these relationships, and I think it's going to be easier for me to just attach, even though the relationships might not be right. See, grab this. Okay, now this is wrong, right? I've got to change this around. I've got to right click here, go to set begin single. It's at 0 or more. It needs to be 1 and only 1. See how that's now a 1? Now that's wrong because it should be many. So I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to go set end symbol, and that's going to be 0 or more. Okay, so now that looks pretty good, doesn't it? Now I'm going to take another relationship. I'm going to put it on here, and I'm going to make it a straight connector as well. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm just going to attach these two together. Even who cares whether or not the relationships are correct at this point. if it'll accept that. No, you can tell if you move it around and okay, that's fine. Still not fully attached. Can I move this around? Yes, I can. All right, it's attached. In this case, it's done properly. See how the many side is here and the many side is there, touching the one side is here and the one side is here. So I don't have to change these endpoints at all. Okay, so now I've got that changed. The last one other one I should do here is book. Sure, I need to see if I can get back into the instructions so I can see this again. Documents, BIS 245, Lab 3 instructions. For some reason, my system won't let me open this up so that I can serve you and get this video completed. So I'm going to have to go off memory. I believe that they also had a relationship between publisher and book. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this publisher table right here, and each book is associated with one publisher, but each publisher can have many books. So we don't need a junction table because this is only a many-to-one or one-to-many relationship. But it does mean that we need to establish this relationship here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here the attribute, which would be publisher ID. And then you right-click and you would put set foreign key. Then you have to take this relationship right here. And again, I'm going to make this a straight connector. I'm going to move this around a little bit as well. The foreign key goes on the many side of the relationship, or the many side goes on the foreign key. I'm going to take this and attach it to oops, I have to do it again. Grab the relationship, put it here. I'm going to make it a straight connector again. I'm going to move this around a little bit. Okay, and again, I'm finding it's easier to not really care about whether the relationship's lines, whether the crow's foot is in the right spot until you get it connected. And then take this and put it here. Can I move it around? Yes, and it stays. Yes, it stays. Okay. Now I have to get the relationship right. So I right click here. I'm going to go to set begin symbol. And I believe this is the begin symbol. And it's set to 0 or more. And I want it to be 1 and only 1. So that's right. But that's a 1. It should be a many because the foreign key goes on the many side of the relationship. So I'm going to right click on that. And I'm going to go to set end symbol. And that's going to be 0 or more. And now we have put this together. Now it might look better with these as right angle connectors. I think this is going to look better as a straight connector. This is probably going to look better as a straight connector as well. So let's move this down a bit. Might look better right angled. There. Now we've got a relationship that's lying around there doing something. Oh, it was this one here. I guess it wasn't attached properly. So we're going to grab that again. We're going to right click we're going to make it straight. We're going to take it, we're going to attach it to the side. Okay, and this is done properly because the many side is on the junction table and the one side is on the, oh no, it's backward. No, it's, no, hold on, order book, book author. I know what, it's the wrong table. This should go like this. And that's correct. You get the one side here, and you've got the many side here, although it's overlapping with another one, so I want to make this a straight connector. And that's correct. Remember, the many side goes on the junction table side where the foreign key is. Okay, so we put this together here. You see you've got, in this case, you've got each customer associates with many orders, but an order has only one customer. Each order associates with many book order entries because this is a junction table joining this order with this book. The order to book is many to many. Junction table, many side here on the foreign key side. Author, book, book author. Um, Notice you've got a junction table. It's always constructed the same. You've got your manys here, many, one, and one on the outside. This is a publisher book. Each book has one publisher, but a publisher can have many books. This is a many side right there. And that's what this design looks like. Now I haven't put in, let's zoom in a little bit. I haven't put in these other, what we call non-key attributes. Non-key attributes are, the ones that the information about the particular order, and they're in the lab. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you do need to go in here and put, you know, the customer's last name, the customer's first name. You've got to add those attributes. You can, drag them into the entity if you want to add more attributes if you want to. But you do have to expand these until you get all of the attributes in the lab into each of these. So there's a bit more work for you to do, but it's just a matter of entering in those attributes, making those ones that you think should be required as well. So for example, if you have a customer last name like that, um, right click on that, set required. I mean, you wouldn't want to enter in a customer without a last name, right? You'll need to go through and make judgments as to what should be required and what shouldn't. It may be indicated in the lab which ones. I'm fairly liberal, just as long as I see many of them that make sense are required. I don't really grade very hard for that because sometimes it's a judgment call. So there you go. That's how you do the Lab 3 in Visio.